How does the final season or the homestand of the Cardinals season start? Well, kind of like the whole season, a microcosm of two teams in contention, the Cardinals and the Reds. Technically contending, however, repeatedly falling over their shoelaces. And for the Cardinals, it's too little too late as they lose 11-6 against the Cincinnati Reds on this Monday night. This is STL Sports Central, Cardinals postgame. I'm Luke Slabaugh. He's Brenden Schaeffer. Schaefer, what was your takeaway from this poor performance?
Yeah, it was a game that it felt like the Cardinals, how many times have we said this, like had a pretty good look in it, and then things kind of fell apart late. Matthew Liberatore pitched okay today and was on the hook for the loss when he left the game, but you had what I thought could have been the story of this game if not for the significant woes for the bullpen, which are kind of a growing theme recently. Sixth inning, Cardinals had two quick outs, and then they find a way to develop a two-out rally and take the lead in this ball game. It was, start small with a base knock, you get a hit by pitch in there, and then you just continue to chip away. Cardinals found the lead, but you didn't have to wait long, Luke, to see the Reds start to scrap back. 3 in the 7th, give up a run in the 8th inning, and then 4 more in the 9th to really open up the floodgates in this loss. Disappointing. You said it, microcosm of the season. Samuel said it as well. Had a chance, but not really. That's kind of the way this year has gone.
Free passes doom the Cardinals pitching. They walk 5, and 4 of them come around to score. We were just talking about that 9th inning where it really seemed like the game fell out of reach. Leahy's on with 1 out. Bases are loaded. Sal Stewart hits a ground ball to the pitcher's mound up the middle, and Leahy tries to play it on the backhand. It deflects off his glove. A run scores on an infield single to make it 8-6 Reds. They would pour on from there, tack on 3 more runs. And that is the money moment of the game. It's brought to you by Home Bank, the team behind our team at STL Sports Central. Visit myhomebank.bank or call 855-577-2001. Schaefer, I know you want to elaborate on this a little bit. A little bit of hero ball going on for Kyle Leahy there in the 9th.
Yeah, I think it's the instinct for a pitcher anytime you get a ball right back at you to try to make a play on it. But if he lets that go, if he's able to kind of avoid that instinct, you potentially look at a double play ball that gets you out of the inning. Cardinals would still be down at that spot. We kind of talked about that. Is that really the money moment where the game was decided? Yeah, maybe not, because it was already a 7-6 lead, but I think the Cardinals might have had a little bit more of a willingness to muster something up if it's a 1-run deficit compared to a 2-run, and then obviously a 5-run deficit as the 4 runs are tallied there in the 9th inning. So I really feel like, although the game may have already been over at that point, you really felt the air go out of the balloon there at that spot for the Cardinals, and that's why I really feel like that was maybe more instrumental and again, more of that microcosm conversation that we've talked about. Jeremy said, better not say wild card. I joked with Joe Roderick earlier today, ended up hopping in with him on Card Central 365 this afternoon. And we just spent some time kind of outlining the fact that, no, the Cardinals are not in contention, but it wouldn't have taken much, right? It's coming into today's game. Saturday should have been a win. You were on the post-game show for that game, Luke. Just a lot of different ways the Cardinals found a way to lose that game, and you just get swept at the Mariners. I mean, if you could take one of the Mariners games and the Saturday game that you absolutely had in hand, I think it was 6-1 at one point. You're talking about a situation where the Cardinals are coming into tonight with a 500 record and 2 games out. Now, obviously, they lose tonight, but just how different it could have been. I think people are tired of the ifs and buts if they were candy and nuts, etc. It just is what it is for the Cardinals at this point. But tonight, another example of why, right? You feel like a game is maybe not in hand, but certainly they had a chance. But no, Ray, anymore, I'm not going to say that the Cardinals have a chance at a wild card. The dream is officially dead. I think, Luke, it officially died on Saturday night. It had been unofficially dead for a while before that, though.
Everyone died on Saturday night. Randy Carricker died listening to me talk for a power hour there on the post-game show, but it was wild.
What I heard.
National TV, the Cardinals get caught with their pants down. You're up 6-1, and you got a chance to rain on the parade of the Brewers. That was just, it was tacky. And speaking of tacky, the ifs and buts, candies or nuts, all that stuff.
There it is.
I totally said that wrong. I was thinking about just the missed opportunities. Matthew Liberatore only throws 77 pitches for a quality start. He was robbed of the win. The Cardinals get 3 runs there in that rally in the 6th. They pick him up. I mean, he probably could have gone an extra frame had Victor Scott not booted that ball in center field off Andujar's bat. That allowed 2 runs to come in and score and made him work a little bit extra. And
Yeah.
with the 2-out walk for sure to Noel V. Marte, there's stuff on Liberatore to improve on. However, a quality start. This was a better Matthew Liberatore than we had seen in series prior, particularly his last outing there. What did you like the most from Libby tonight?
I mean, I thought you mentioned it. Like there were a few things that you can always find areas to improve and things to do a little bit better. But largely, we saw a very good version of him, and the mistakes were not necessarily his mistakes, the ones that really came back to haunt the Cardinals. I liked his efficiency. I mean, found a way to get through those 6 innings under 80 pitches. I would say that it's probably part of just a general plan maybe for the Cardinals if he's, coming into another inning where to finish it, he might be pushing 90, 100. Maybe that was a reason to remove him. It's also, the fact that you want to try to get fresh arms in there and preserve the lead once that decision is clear when you're up 4-3 at that point. But you're right. I mean, there were a lot of ways for him to have been at a much lower pitch count after 6, and it just didn't end up going that way. I liked a lot about what we saw from Liberatore. You mentioned the Mariners start wasn't a good one from him. That was a significant step back after he had it was like that climb up the roller coaster, that very slow ascent where, all right, in the middle of August, you were talking about just not being able to get deep into games. And, he didn't get a lot deeper in those August starts, but was able to limit some of the damage at times, and then had a good one against the Athletics to begin September. And then, like you mentioned, the step back against the Mariners. I thought this was back to being a step in the right direction. ERA gets trimmed down a little bit to 4.30. And, you're hoping to see Liberatore just kind of end. He's got probably a couple starts left, end the season without much fanfare, and just really feel good about building up to the innings count that he ends up with, and can then hopefully build from that going into 2026.
The talk of Cardinal Nation this morning was the return of Nolan Arenado, activated off the IL after missing 40 games with a shoulder injury, and he is champing at the bit. First pitch slider against right-hander Zach Littell. It's low and away, probably knee height, and he lofts it into center field for an RBI single. Part of a good day on the diamond for Nolan Arenado. He finishes 2 for 4. What were your takeaways from seeing Nato back there at the hot corner?
Yeah, that was good to see, and good to see him, like you said, first pitch swinging there, getting the RBI hit, and helping the Cardinals to even that game up. I wasn't sure we'd see it, honestly, at a certain point earlier in September or late August. I was just wondering, whether or not this would be something that was considered worthwhile. Now, hearing some of the comments where he's sort of acknowledging the elephant in the room, the situation that revolves around his contract status and the status of the Cardinals, not being a team that really is planning to shell out financially to adjust the roster and make it a true contender in 2026. I see our buddy Aaron complaining about the media talking about expect the losses in the comments. I don't know what else to say. Like, we are discussing a product of what I think the front office and the ownership group is ready to roll out, which is going to be slowly building back toward payroll. And it's unfortunate because, again, I don't think that there needs to be a real true downturn for this Cardinal team if you can strategically and aggressively find ways to build smart, right? Spend smart. It just spend to spend is not really a strategy that benefits any baseball team. But if you can do things in a savvy way in the offseason, yeah, they would be able to find their way back maybe a little bit quicker than otherwise expected. But Nolan Arenado, with where he is right now, I just don't think is looking to be a part of that. Granted, he could have been out. He could be with the Astros and trying to find himself toward a playoff spot, but he chose to wait it out and see if something better came along. Nothing did. This year hasn't gone the way that he's wanted it to, but obviously getting back out there and maybe being able to showcase a little bit for a trade, I bet he's going to be a lot less picky this time around if the Cardinals are able to find something for him. The Cardinals are also probably going to have to be a lot less picky this time around in terms of not only what they're getting in return, but what they're willing to eat in terms of the finances of it. You got to probably swallow this pill to step forward, I think, as an organization. But it is going to be a little bit bittersweet, I think, over the next week seeing Nolan Arenado play at Busch Stadium as a Cardinal for probably the last time, as I do not expect him on the team next year.
Could be an Arenado farewell tour, could be a Miles Michaelis farewell tour, more than likely so, or Sonny Gray potentially. That's
I don't know about Gray, but Miles, I would be shocked to see Miles back, even though he does say he wants to pitch.
I have a question for you about this, because Nolan Arenado will be entering his age 35 season. So obviously things have changed in 4 years. However, the impetus for him asking out of Colorado and very publicly communicating he wanted to trade was the lack of a support system. He didn't think that the ownership went out and tried willingly to compete, to build a good team or a culture there in Denver. Now, don't misinterpret that. The Cardinals are not the Rockies, and they are nowhere near the ownership team that the Monforts are over there. But what changed? Like, why hasn't that become more of a public-facing, forward-facing request on Arenado's part to find a better landing spot for the end of his career?
I think it obviously was public last off season that it was widely reported that he wanted to explore the possibilities because of where the Cardinals were. And of course, that, in fairness to Arenado, that was framed originally as, hey, we are doing this. We would understand if you feel that doesn't fit really with what you're wanting to do. You got a list of teams for us. And he said, I just so happen to have this handy list of 5 teams. Problem is, one of the 5 teams on the list, he then had a trade to be able to go join that team. And he said, no, thank you. Was reported as not right now, which is not how this works. I mean, he found that out very quickly. The Astros moved on to Christian Walker, spent about identical to what they were reportedly willing to take on in Arenado's salary, and the rest is history. So, going back to last offseason, it was a shock when you get to spring training and he was still there, right? I guess not a shock because it had happened slowly and then all at once that we find out, there's really not anything materializing here for Arenado. When in October, it seemed like it was just an impossibility that he would be back. I think what happened is he was hoping to get something, here from the Dodgers or one of those ideal teams. He had a list of 5, but when number 5 on that list was the first to come knocking, and it was early enough in the offseason, he thought, well, maybe I can wait it out for somebody else. Nobody else came knocking, and so he kind of ended up having to swallowed his pride a little bit, and he was a great teammate about it. Like, he did all the right things and said all the right things coming back to Jupiter, but had to play this season out. And really, you could go back to quotes from him even early in the season, was even clear that it was on his mind to play well enough to potentially be more attractive to a team, whether it was at the deadline or this offseason. Cardinals ended up playing well enough for a while that it seemed as though, well, maybe that's not the case. Maybe the Cardinals are a playoff team. Well, they weren't. And now we're at a spot where Arenado's OPSing in the 660 range or so. Still playing Gold Glove caliber defense, in my opinion. He won't win it because he missed time, and I just think that the cachet of his name maybe giving him the award was not going to be enough to carry it alone. But he really was earnestly playing good defense. That's a true take of mine. But it's a spot where now, last offseason you had 5 teams, really 4 that you would have gone to. Now, are you a little bit more willing to go, okay, I don't have the leverage that I hoped I did, that I thought I did, that I wish I had, but the Cardinals really aren't spinning. Like, they might not be a bad team, but my dream is not to end my, playing career mentoring young guys to 78 and 84 seasons. Like, that's not what I want. And so I'm going to be a little bit more willing to, hey, is this a team that projects to make the playoffs and they're making moves to try to win? Great. I think he kind of got in his own way, Luke, with the decision because they had just traded Kyle Tucker out of Houston, and his decision-making at the time was probably impacted by that. I don't know that to be true for sure, but it seems plausible enough that he goes, well, wait a minute. If I'm leaving a situation that I'm happy enough in, but we're probably not contending for a team that's trading away Kyle Tucker, I mean, that's a great player. What he maybe didn't realize and failed to realize is that the Astros are just a quality organization that continues to contend and probably would have done so with him and have generally done so without him. So that's kind of the long-winded answer. I think it has been, talked about that he is looking out, for another opportunity. But I think his over-selectiveness the last time around has to be what probably changes the approach this time around because he had a lesser season. The hope was you go from a 710 OPS to maybe 750, 760, and now it's a completely different looking situation. He didn't do that. He dropped the other direction on the OPS and the batting stats. And so, what that looks like, the Cardinals are going to have to eat a lot of money to make it work. But I think at this point, it's something they should be willing to do. JJ Weatherholt's on the way. You may still feel like you have something in Nolan Gorman if you can't move him. It coalesces for me, Luke, into something the Cardinals need to be willing to just make. They said it was priority number 1, 2, and 3 last offseason. Didn't do a very good job of it. New front office needs to just go ahead and make it something that gets done pretty quick and, with little fanfare. You don't have to get anything back. It's just time to, find a home for him that he's going to be happy in. Maybe you save a few bucks and then you clear away for JJ Weatherholt. I think it's okay for that to be the priority at this point. As much as I was, as thrilled as anybody when they got Nolan Arenado, it just didn't really, go the way that everybody had hoped.
It didn't work out. And we've seen numerous examples of teams working around albatrosses of contracts and no trade clauses to get the job done. So, Chaim Bloom, we're playing chess here. We have good news, Missouri. Get ready, because DraftKings is a-coming. The #1 rated sportsbook app in America. You can sign up today. New Missouri customers can get $300 in bonus bets when DraftKings launches on December 1st. Download now and place a $5 bet when DK Sportsbook goes live. It brings everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning-fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when they officially go live in Missouri, you'll be betting with the sportsbook app trusted by millions. Safe, secure, and with fast money withdrawals. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code STL Sports to grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when DraftKings goes live December 1st. That's code STL SPORTS in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. The Cardinals carry on. They can take the middle game of this series, just 11 of these slogs to go. And
slogs is maybe not a bad way to phrase it. Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's 11 more DoorDash orders at 7 o'clock to go, and it is right-hander Michael McGreevy taking the bump. It's actually a rematch of 2 weeks ago. August 30th, Michael McGreevy versus left-hander Andrew Abbott, and the Greevy train won that game. 4-2 ball game, Wilson Contreras and Pedro Pajes with home runs. What are you looking forward to the most about that, Schaefer?
I want to continue to see Michael McGreevy. I know people, earlier in the season were frustrated by the fact that he wasn't here. I would make the case, and I did earlier with Joe, that largely the Cardinals have managed like the Miles Michaelis situation, for example, about how they ought to have. They could have been more aggressive, so I'm not, trying to like credit them for it, but I think in terms of like waiting with McGreevy like they did, trying to get through the early portion of the season, it was serviceable until it wasn't. Where they really messed up was several Eric Fetty starts that just never should have happened. And, we said so at the time, and every 5 days we kept saying so until it was over. McGreevy could have had those. My point is, McGreevy's going to end up with like 15 starts and a couple of relief appearances for this team this year. And so we get a very good sample of what it looks like to have Michael McGreevy in this rotation. And boy, is he going to have a chance to kind of reflect upon this year, build upon it, and he's going to be a staple next year. So anytime he's on the mound, frankly, Luke, that's one of the more interesting guys I'm looking to see, because he's one of the very few that you can say with certainty that he's going to be here next year. I'd say Liberatore and McGreevy are the two that you can absolutely lock in, health provided, for this Cardinal rotation in 2026. You mentioned it with Sonny. He's got the no trade, but maybe a little bit more open, another year removed from just having landed basically in St. Louis. I think he wanted to get through this season and put in the time to, kind of integrate into this clubhouse. But now that the Cardinals are clearly where they're at, maybe that final year of the contract, he's willing to go elsewhere, and maybe the Cardinals decide they can get something for him and maybe save a buck or two. With Palante, obviously we have no idea with just his performance if the Cardinals are going to be penciling him into the starting five next year, and Michaelis is out the door. So yes, McGreevy is one of those guys that you feel pretty good about. He's going to be here, and trying to look for kind of things to look forward to, seeing how McGreevy looks and how he can finish strong to then maybe go into a big campaign for him where he knows on opening day he's going to be in that starting five. And, Cardinals fans are hoping Michael McGreevy is in the rotation the next time this team's in the playoffs. It might not be next year, might be a couple of years down the road, but this is kind of the start for him of hopefully being a mainstay for the Cardinals in that rotation.
He's definitely been a bulldog and a nice spot at times this season. One note that we forgot to mention: when the Cardinals do rally in the bottom of the seventh, 2 outs, Brendan Donovan with an RBI single against right-hander Tony Santillan, and Ivan Herrera as well with an RBI single. The bases are loaded with 2 outs after Alec Burleson is hit by a pitch. Wilson Contreras' place is up, and he is substituted out for Nolan Gorman. It was announced on the broadcast that that was due to right biceps tightness for Wilson Contreras.
Yeah.
So that is a school of Tyler O'Neill injury. That is something to look out for as the season wraps up. Starting first baseman perhaps out of the lineup and could affect the way that they approach the final couple weeks of the season.
Yeah, and look, at this point, a hangnail is a reason enough to keep some guys out of the lineup. Now, that is not applicable to Wilson Contreras, who, certainly I think if he's available to be in there, he would want to be in there. And frankly, maybe the Cardinals win this game. That could have been the money moment, is the fact that, unfortunately for the Cardinals, Wilson was injured, and they end up going to Gorman, who didn't come through, grounded out to second, I believe it was. And Contreras, already had a good night brewing and potentially would have been able to really change the outcome of that game with a bases loaded situation. So you hope it's not anything that does cost him the rest of the season. I think any Cardinals fans that are planning to still go down to Busch Stadium for the final week of the regular season in terms of the home games, and the weekend is really that opportunity against the Brewers, that's one of the guys you want to see. You want to see Donnie, you want to see Contreras, and that's really all that's left is all right, I won't get to see any of these guys until March or April, and some of them I may never see again. So I might, take the family down one more time. There's really nothing else to sell at this point, unfortunately. It could have been a different story, but this is the one that they're telling, and you trade all your bullpen guys at the deadline, and you end up feeling like, well, we've got these guys that really got you through August and early September, made it look like things were going pretty swimmingly. But then the next crop of guys, like the downstream effect of that, instead of Riley and Swanson and Leahy sort of being the second string to your Helsley and your Maton, those guys are thrust into the big roles, and then you got Chris Roycroft and Ryan Fernandez pitching in games. I know people are frustrated about that. I don't have an issue with it. Those guys have to pitch this year so that you can learn what you have to learn about them, which is maybe don't count on them for the 26-man roster in the bullpen next year. I mean, that's part of the conversation as well. And unfortunately, for a team that's handful of games below 500, you end up sort of having to accept the lumps with that, and use it as a proving ground. It hasn't been what has been proven, Luke, has not been favorable, though, for some of those fellas.
It hasn't. I was talking with Randy on Saturday that this last homestand that fans might come down, see Miles Michaelis pitch, see he can go 5 solid innings, kind of golf clap him off the field in his final game.
Oh, at home? At home, he'll go 6, buddy. I mean, it's gonna be big stuff.
Yeah, and throw a quality start and just reflect on the good times, the 18-win season, say thank you for your service and go on your merry way. And Randy just responded, looked dead in the camera, was like, I don't think that's going to happen, Luke. I really don't. Final thoughts as we wrap up this 11-6 loss to the Cincinnati Reds here on Monday.
Yeah, and guys, I know sometimes people say, well, why don't they show the comments? Most of it has just been complaining, which is fair. It's just not super pertinent to the breakdown of the game. So I try to scroll through and find as many as I can. I want to address this from Aaron. He said, still waiting to hear an apology from DeWitt III for laughing at the fans for not showing up. I feel like that has, but I don't know if there was some formal apology, but he has addressed that and said, probably could have phrased it better. Here's what I meant to say. The Cardinals ownership group is going to have to grapple with the fact that the downward spiral of attendance will continue until, the product is something that is worth supporting from Cardinals fans. And that is not the fault of Cardinals fans. Right. Randy and I on Randy's show go back and forth on this oftentimes, because he would say, there's no business in the world that would, operate in a way that if they weren't making enough revenues to put money into the business, they're going to take the owner's money out of their pocket and just, pour it in. That's just not the way businesses are run. While I agree with that, you also have to acknowledge that the fans are not obligated to support the business. If the business is not, putting out a product that's worth consuming and paying for in whatever capacity that looks like, television contracts, if people want to buy the app that you get to watch all the games over the top, over the counter, however they call it now, with the new the new FanDuel service, or if you want to buy tickets to go to the ball game and concessions and everything that goes on along with that, has to be earned, I think. What I will tell Cardinals fans in this chat, and look, you can believe me, you can disagree with me and say it's not real. I do think that the ownership has had to learn some lessons and take their lumps. They maybe didn't apologize in the way that you wanted them to in the end of season press conference last year. And as far as I saw a comment asking about the presser for this year, I have no idea. I assume there will be one after the season because Chaim Bloom's got a lot to talk about. We haven't heard from him, and the next time they have a press conference, Chaim Bloom's sitting in the big chair and John Mozeliak is nowhere to be found. That is the way that Cardinals fans have wanted it for a while, and that's what's happening, right? He's Mo's not. I don't think there's going to be a send-off press conference for John Mozeliak. I would be surprised by that. So they're going to be moving forward. You got something there?
He'll be asking for a little bit of patience if there is.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit more patience. There's a comment from Vinny Barbarino in the chat dated at 10:09. I don't know if we can show it, but it is verbatim what CBS told me last year because I'm pretty sure that's them in disguise. This fella sounds like he could put a person on Feel Good Hit of the Summer by Queens of the Stone Age to sleep. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I'll just put it on there so everybody knows what we're doing. We don't have to beat around the bush. Who's putting the person on coke to sleep? Maybe it's both of us. I don't know, but that's okay.
It's me.
I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't worry about it. The folks are unhappy. What I will say, the front office, I do believe that's coming in is going to be very eager to prove, and not just that, like it's going to feel different. The messaging that y'all have complained about for a long time, I believe. If you don't believe me now, let's reconvene in like 4 months or like when we get to spring training and let me know if you feel different about hearing Chaim Bloom talk about this team versus Mo. I feel like if nothing else, they're at least going to recognize there's been sort of a malaise in the way that the messaging from the org to its fan base has happened. And I think this next group, from what I am told, they're eager to kind of correct that and allow that to look something refreshed, something different.
Looking forward to game 2 tomorrow. Unfortunately, the Cardinals dropped this one 11-6 tonight in relatively heartbreaking fashion at Busch Stadium.
Yeah.
Be sure, if you're watching for the first time, 42 of you right now watching on the YouTubes, we've got daily content. The Randy Carricker Show, sometimes with Randy Carricker. Been told one Brooke Grimsley is swinging by this week as well.
There we go.
She had something happen recently. There was also Joe Roderick. He works here. And then Matthew Rocchio and B-Shafe Daily. He's got his own YouTube channel. He does his own stuff. We got Bernie Nicholas.
From time to time.
I used to read the Post-Dispatch, the newspaper. It's like a blog, but you get ink on your fingers. All that is available on stlsportscentral.com. And Bill DeWitt's Hurricane Hair. We'll talk about that as well. All right. This has been the show. He's Brenden Schaeffer. I'm Luke Slabaugh. I want to say thank you all for tuning in on this Monday night. This has been Card Central Postgame presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours.